All right, we're live, brother.
Yeah, baby.
We're live on YouTube.
Live from deep underground. Thank you for joining us here on Deep in the Pits of Underground.
Excellent. You want to start reading? This is great. We got two guys.
I
We're gonna.
can.
Oh,
Oh, oh, oh,
Monique.
oh,
Monique is
just as
it?
you spoke. Wow. Holy shit. Monique. All right. I could start though if you want.
Yeah. How about
Yeah.
if Gary start for once? That'd be
Yeah.
great. Hi, Monique.
Hey, Monique.
Hello, hello.
How you doing?
Good, thank you.
All right. All right. Do you want me to start reading? I will start.
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right, here we go. The vision of Isaiah, son of Amoz, that he beheld concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the reigns of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. It's easy to read it in Hebrew. Hear, O heavens, and listen, O earth, for the Eternal has spoken. I reared children and brought them up, and they have rebelled against me. The ox knows its owner, and the ass its master's stall. But Israel does not know. My people does not consider. Ah, sinful nation, people weighed down by iniquity, brood of evildoers, destructive children who have forsaken the Eternal, despised the Holy One of Israel, estranged themselves from God. Why invite yet more beatings that you continue your rebellion? The whole head is sick, the whole heart is ill. From head to foot nothing is sound. Injuries, bruises, fresh wounds, not dressed nor bound, nor softened with oil. Your land is desolate, your cities burnt down. Strangers consume your land before your eyes. It is desolation like Sodom overthrown. Only fair Zion is left. She is like a booth in a vineyard, like a hut in a cucumber field, like a city under siege. Had not the God of heaven's hosts left us a remnant, we should have already been like Sodom. We should have seemed like Gomorrah. Hear the word of the Eternal, you rulers of Sodom. Listen to the teaching of our God, you people of Gomorrah. What are your many sacrifices to me, says the Eternal One? I am sated with the rams you bring as burnt offerings, with the fat of your fine animals. I take no delight in the blood of bulls or lambs or goats. When you come to seek my presence, who asked this of you to trample my courts? Bring me no more futile offerings. Incense is an abomination to me. New moon and Sabbath, the calling of assemblies. This is blood and guts.
Yeah, it's right in your wheelhouse here, Achi.
Right.
It's
Oh
like
man, I'm feeling good inside. I get a warm feeling right here. I cannot endure festivities along with evil. I hate your new moons, your festival days. They are a burden to me. I can bear them no more. When you stretch out your hands, I will avert my eyes from you. However much you pray, I will not listen, while your hands are filled with blood. Wash yourselves, cleanse yourselves. Put your evil doings away from my sight. Cease to do evil. Learn to do good. Seek justice. Relieve the oppressed. Uphold the orphan's rights. Take up the widow's cause. Come now, says the Eternal One, let us reason together. Though your sins be scarlet, they can become white as snow. Though they be dyed crimson, they can become like fleece. If you are willing and obey, you shall eat the good things of the earth. But if you refuse and rebel, you shall be devoured by the sword, for the Eternal One has spoken. Oh, how the faithful city played the whore. Once she was so full of justice, righteousness dwelt there, and now murderers. Your silver has turned to dross, your wine is diluted with water. Your rulers are rebels, cronies of thieves. Every one of them loves bribes and is avid for graft. They do not decide the orphan's case. The widow's cause never comes before them. Therefore, says the sovereign, the God of heaven's host, the mighty one of Israel, enough. I will rid myself of my foes and revenge myself on my enemies. Again and again I will raise my hand to you, smelt away your dross as if with lie, and rid you of your slag. And I will restore your judges as in the beginning, and your counselors as in days of old. Then shall you be called righteous city, faithful town. Zion shall be redeemed by justice, and its repentant people by righteousness. Praise God. Amen.
Now, was that
Ooh.
Ezekiel or Jeremiah?
Jeremiah. Oh, no.
That was Isaiah. That was
That was Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first chapter of Isaiah. It's amazing because it's all fire and brimstone, and that's much of the Tanakh is, yeah, it's back and forth. It's like, it's like, I love you, but you hate me. I give you these things, you've gone astray. But over and over they come back and they go backwards and forwards, and so.
That's why I always feel like, when we study the Torah, like in the whole Tanakh, like the 5 books of Moses are the real, everything else is just around that. Everything that comes after that is just, because there again, it's like there is like this type of fire and brimstone in the 5 books. But, that's all part of when the law was first being given like that. And then subsequently, to me, like I'm saying, all the prophets really did is fire and brimstone. They would talk about all these fire and brimstone things, and then at the same time, but if, like you say, if you do this, but that kind of, that theme repeats itself,
Right.
Just
right. And no, you make a great point, because in reality, I believe the Torah is a time when most of the people, most of Israel in the Torah is trying to follow God, the Creator. God, they have to rely on God to survive in the desert. And so I think it's a great point to think about the Torah as like the base of everything. Because, and once we get into Joshua, we'll see that Joshua, I feel like, continues that theme. But after Joshua ends, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, because even before Joshua takes over, right? God tells Moses that when you die, the people are going to stray.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And to me, like, humanity's been straying ever since Moses' death.
Right.
We do it more and more,
But I think we can see shifts back and forth. Like, I think the Hasidic movements of the 1600s kind of were a shift back to some of the, ancient ways and getting back into God. And I even look at the founding of the United States as being a real, as part of that Great Awakening that the Christians talk about, the Great Awakening of some of these preachers that influenced the first presidents, really. John Adams talks about the preachers that he heard when he was young, and he got all these feelings of, power from the Bible and from preaching and things. And so I feel like 1700s were they tended to go right to the Bible and read it a lot. And even Ben Franklin said at one point that he said it in his autobiography. He said, we were just a bunch of farmers. We weren't religious at all. But all of a sudden, like, these preachers came into town, and everyone's reading the Bible, and everyone's having these great, songs, and they're singing psalms in their living rooms, and it just was like overnight. Everyone just turned to the Bible, and it was like, wow. And that's what I like. I'm hoping we could do that again, but we don't know. That's the other thing.
Most of those people that came over here too, or at least a lot of them, they're coming over here like the Jews leaving Egypt. Like, that was their exodus.
Right. That's right. That's right.
And this
Absolutely.
they were coming to the promised land.
That's
and
right.
What did they do?
And
they
were
came
battling.
here and they had a battle just the way it does in the Bible.
That's right.
Unfortunately.
That's right.
But it's
right.
an unfortunate reality, but it's
right.
still reality,
and we can,
whether we like it or not,
Right. And we can discuss, like, whether or not the land was taken appropriately, probably not. Anyway, but it's history. Oh, here comes Cynthia.
Cynthia, come on down. You're on next. next underground. You're next.
So how are you today, Monique? How's your week going?
Good. I'm going to Scotland on Sunday.
Wow!
Whoa.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Have you heard of the Mystic Chorale?
Sort of. Is it a singing group?
Did she freeze?
It's a singing group. They're doing a gospel concert in.
Wow. Yeah, sometimes I think it's my internet, but maybe it's someone. Hi, Cynthia.
I'm sorry, I'm a little late. Do you know I fell asleep? I sat down. I was waiting for 7:30, and then I woke up, and here I am.
But we hear you perfectly. We hear you perfectly.
Don't jinx it. I know.
Kind of horror, you know. Let me go back to.
I'm sorry, Monique. You started to freeze up. So that's great. You're going to Scotland. Wow.
Yeah, for 8 days. Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh, fantastic. I hear the weather's beautiful. I mean, well, it's like really hot actually, but summery enough. Scotland should be nice. Yeah. Scotland should be delightful. Who wants to read the Torah portion?
I can read.
Monique?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Do we go to 1.1?
We're going Deuteronomy, yes, the first chapter of Deuteronomy.
Okay.
Yep.
These are the words that Moses addressed to all Israel on the other side of the Jordan, through the wilderness in the Arabah near Suf, between Paran and Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dizahab. It is 11 days from Mount Horeb to Kadesh Barnea by the Mount Seir route. It was in the 40th year, on the first day of the 11th month, that Moses addressed the Israelites in accordance with the instructions that the Eternal had given him for them. After he had defeated Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, and King Og of Bashan, who dwelt at Ashtaroth and Edrei, on the other side of the Jordan in the land of Moab, Moses undertook to expound this teaching. He said, "The Eternal our God spoke to us at Horeb, saying, 'You have stayed long enough at this mountain. Start out and make your way to the hill country of the Amorites and to all their neighbors in the Arabah, the hill country, the Sephalah, the Negeb, the Sikos, the land of the Canaanites, and the Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. See, I placed the land at your disposal. Go take possession of the land that the Eternal swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to assign to them and to their heirs after them. Thereupon I say to you, I cannot bear the burden of you by myself. The Eternal your God has multiplied you until you are today as numerous as the stars in the sky. May the Eternal, the God of your ancestors, increase your numbers 1,000-fold and bless you as promised. How can I bear unaided the trouble of you and the burden and the bickering? Pick from each of your tribes representatives who are wise, discerning, and experienced, and I will appoint them as your heads. You answered me and said, what do you propose to do is good. So I took your tribal leaders, wise and experienced representatives, and appointed them heads over you, chiefs of thousands, chiefs of hundreds, chiefs of 50s, and chiefs of tens, and officials for your tribes. I charge your magistrates at that time as follows. Hear out your fellow Israelites and decide justly between anyone and a fellow Israelite or a stranger. You shall not be partial in judgment. Hear out low and Hear out low and high alike. Fear no one, for judgment is God's. And any matter that is too difficult for you, you shall bring to me and I will hear it. Thus I instructed you at the time about the various things that you should do. We set out from Horeb and traveled the great and terrible wilderness that you saw, along the road to the hill country of the Amorites, as the Eternal our God has commanded us. When we reached Kadesh Barnea, I said to you, you have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which the Eternal our God is giving to us. See, the Eternal your God has placed the land at your disposal. Go up, take possession as the Eternal, the God of your fathers, promised you. Fear not and be not dismayed. Then all of you came to me and said, let us send emissaries ahead to reconnoiter the land for us and bring back word on the route we shall follow and the cities we shall come to. I approved of the plan, and so I selected from among you 12 representatives, one from each tribe. They made for the hill country, came to the Wadi Eshcol, and spied it out. They took some of the fruit of the land with them and brought it down to us, and they gave us this report. It is a good land that the eternal Lord God is giving to us. Yet you refused to go up and flouted the command of the eternal your God. You sulked in your tents and said, it is out of hatred for us that the eternal brought us out of the land of Egypt to hand us over to the Amorites to wipe us out. What kind of place are we going to? Our brothers have taken the heart out of us, saying, we saw there are people stronger and taller than we, large cities with walls sky heights and even Anakites. I said to you, have no dread or fear of them. None other than the eternal your God who goes before you will fight for you, just as God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes. And in the wilderness, when you saw how the eternal your God carried you, as a householder carried his son, all the way that you traveled until you came to this place. Yet for all that, you have no faith in the eternal your God, who goes before you on your journeys, to scout the place where you are to encamp, in fire by night and in cloud by day, in order to guide you on the route you are to follow. The Eternal heard your loud complaint and becoming angry, vowed, not one of the men counted in the census, this evil generation, shall see the good land that I swore to give to your fathers. None except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, he shall see to it, and to him and his descendants will I give the land on which he set foot, because he remained loyal to the Eternal. Because of you, the Eternal was incensed with me too, saying, you shall not enter it either. Joshua, son of Nun, who attends you, he shall enter it. Imbue him with strength, for he shall allot it to Israel. Moreover, your little ones who you said would be carried off, your children who do not yet know good from bad, they shall enter it. To them will I give it, and they shall possess it. As for you, turn about and march into the wilderness by the way of the Sea of Reeds. You replied to me, saying, we stand guilty before the Eternal. We will go up now and fight just as the Eternal our God commanded us. And the men among you each girded yourselves with war gear and recklessly started for the hill country. But the Eternal One said to me, warn them, do not go up and do not fight, since I am not in your midst, else you shall be routed by your enemies. I spoke to you, but you would not listen. You flouted the Eternal's command and willfully marched into the hill country. Then the Amorites who lived in those hills came out against you like so many bees and chased you, and they crushed you at Homa and Seir. Again you wept before the Eternal, but the Eternal would not heed your cry or give ear to you. I think I'm going to stop.
This is amazing stuff, as always, like a real recap of the whole journey, right?
And he gets to speak his mind, like it's because it's that point in his life and in his tenure is in the function that he's in. Like, you know, that's the time when you reiterate and you look back. Like there were things he could say now that he couldn't say the same before, you know?
Yeah,
It's a little
that's right.
now. Yeah.
And I heard that these are like kind of speeches or sermons that Moses gave to the Israelites before he knew he was going to die before they entered in. So it was like his last will and testament in so many ways. That's what I read anyway.
Yeah.
Who would like to read? Cynthia, would you like to read from 46?
Hey, thus after you had remained at Kadesh all that long time, we marched back into the wilderness by the way of the Sea of Reeds, as the Eternal had spoken to me, and skirted the hill country of Seir a long time. Then the Eternal One said to me, you have been skirting this hill country long enough. Now turn north and charge the people as follows. You will be passing through the territory of your kin, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir. Though they will be afraid of you, be very careful not to provoke them, for I will not give you of their land so much as a foot can tread on. I have given the hill country of Seir as a possession to Esau. What food you eat, you shall obtain from them for money. Even the water you drink, you shall procure from them for money. Indeed, the Eternal your God has blessed you in all your undertakings. God has watched over your wanderings through this great wilderness. The Eternal your God has been with you these past 40 years. You have lacked nothing. We then moved on away from our kin, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir, away from the road of the Arabah, away from Elath and Ezion Geber, and we marched on in the direction of the wilderness of Moab. And the Eternal One said to me, do not harass the Moabites or provoke them to war, for I will not give you any of their land as a possession. I have assigned Ar as a possession to the descendants of Lot. It was formerly inhabited by the Emim, a great people, a people great and numerous, and as tall as, let's see, now where are we? As the Ammonites, called Zamzumim, a people great and numerous and as tall as the Anakites. So the Eternal wiped them out so that the Ammonites dispossessed them and settled in their place, as God did for the descendants of Esau who live in Seir by wiping out the Horites before them, so that they dispossessed them and settled in their place, as is still the case. So too with the Avim who dwelt in the villages in the vicinity of Gaza, the Haftarah who came from Crete, wiped them out and settled in their place. Up, set out against the Wadi Arnon. See, I give into your power Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon and his land. Begin the occupation, engage him in battle. This day I begin to put the dread and fear of you upon the peoples everywhere, under heaven, so that they shall tremble and quake because of you whenever they hear you mentioned. Then I sent messages from the wilderness of Kedemoth to King Sihon of Heshbon with an offer of peace as follows. Let me pass through your country. I will keep strictly to the highway, turning off neither to the right nor to the left. What food I eat, you will supply for money, and what water I drink, you will furnish for money. Just let me pass through, as the descendants of Esau who dwell in Seir did for me and the Moabites who dwell in Ar, that I may cross the Jordan into the land that the Eternal our God is giving us. But King Sihon of Heshbon refused to let us pass through, because the Eternal had stiffened his will and hardened his heart in order to deliver him into your power, as is now the case. And the Eternal One said to me, see, I begin by placing Sihon and his land at your disposal. Begin the occupation, take possession of the land. Sihon, with all his troops, took the field against us at Jahaz, and the Eternal our God delivered him to us, and we defeated him and his sons and all his troops. At that time, we captured all his towns. We doomed every town, men, women, and children, leaving no survivor. We retained as booty only the cattle and the spoil of the cities that we captured. From Arah on the edge of the Ammon Valley, including the town and the valley itself to Gilead, not a city was too mighty for us. The Eternal our God delivered everything to us, but you did not encroach upon the land of the Ammonites, all along the Wadi Jabog and the towns of the hill country, just as the Eternal our God has commanded. We made our way up the road toward Bashan, and King Og of Bashan with all his troops took the field against us at Edrei. But the Eternal One said to me, do not fear him, for I am delivering him and all his troops and his country into your power. And you will do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon. So the Eternal our God also delivered into our power King Og of Bashan with all his troops, and we dealt them such a blow that no survivor was left. At that time, we captured all his towns. There was not a town that we did not take from them, 60 towns, the whole district of Argob, the kingdom of Og in Bashan. All those towns were fortified with high walls, gates, and bars, apart from a great number of unwalled towns. We doomed them as we had done in the case of King Sihon of Heshbon. We doomed every town, men, women, and children, and retained as booty all the cattle and the spoil of the towns. I realize this is a history, and it's very hard to feel God-like religiously. This is a history, but I don't know. It's hard to get inspiration, religious inspiration from this, to me.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot of murder and mayhem, you know?
Yeah, I know. God. Well, that's human beings, right? We are our own
That's
worst
right.
enemy. We human
Right. There
beings
was
are
never,
our own worst
yeah,
enemy.
right. And there was never a time when this didn't happen, right? I mean, this was like the way of the world. I mean, even today, unfortunately, it's still the way of the world somehow. It's weird that we still kind of do this, even though we might say, oh no, you know, we're beyond this. But, you know, we did take over Iraq, as we know, and we did invade Afghanistan for whatever, you know, we know certain reasons. But,
Well, because
and
they're bad
then,
and we're good, and that's the way it goes. Okay, so they say.
yeah, that's right. So they say. That's right.
So the eternal our God also delivered into our power King Og of Bashan with all his troops, and we dealt them such a blow that no survivor was left. At that time, we captured all his towns. There was not a town that we did not take from them. 60 towns, the whole district of Argob, the kingdom of Og and Bashan. All those towns were fortified with high walls, gates, and bars, apart from a great number of unwalled towns. We doomed them as we had done in the case of King Sihon of Heshbon. We doomed every town, men, women, and children, and retained as booty all the cattle and the spoil of the towns. Thus we seized at that time from the 2 Amorite kings the country beyond the Jordan, from the Wadi Arnon on to Mount Hermon. Sidonians called Hermon Sirion, and the Amorites call it Sidir. All the towns of the tableland and the whole of Gilead and Bashan, as far as Salcah and Edrei, the towns of Og's kingdom in Bashan. Only King Og of Bashan was left of the remaining Rephaim. His bedstead, an iron bedstead, is now in Rabbah of the Amorites. It is 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide by the standard cubit. And this is the land which we apportioned at that time. The part from Aror over the Wadi Arnon is part of the hill country of Gilead and its towns. I assigned to the Reubenites and the Gadites. The rest of Gilead and all of Bashan under Og's rule, the whole Argob district, all that part of Bashan, which is called Rephaim country. I assigned to the half tribe of Manasseh. Jair, son of Manasseh, received the whole Argob district, that is Bashan, as far as the boundary of the Geshurites and the Mekathites, and named it after himself, Havath Jair, as is still the case. To Mahar I assigned Gilead, and to the Reubenites and the Gadites I assigned the part from Gilead down to the Wadi Arnon, the middle of the wadi being the boundary, and up to the Wadi Jacob, the boundary of the Ammonites. We also seized the Arabah from the foot of the slopes of Pisgah on the east to the edge of the Jordan, and from Chinnereth down to the sea of the Arabah, the Dead Sea. At that time I charged you, men of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, saying, the Eternal, your God, has given you this country to possess. You must go as shock troops, warriors all, at the head of your Israelite kin. Only your wives, children, and livestock, I know that you have much livestock, shall be left in the towns I have assigned you, until the Eternal has granted your kin a haven, such as you have. And they too have taken possession of the land that the Eternal your God is assigning them beyond the Jordan. Then you may return each to the homestead that I have assigned to him. I also charged Joshua at that time, saying, you have seen with your own eyes all that the Eternal your God has done to these 2 kings. So shall the Eternal do to all the kingdoms into which you shall cross over. Do not fear them, for it is the Eternal your God who will battle for you.
Amen.
Good job, Cynthia. Good job, Monique and Gary. Wonderful. Oh,
Whoa!
there goes a motorcycle.
Hey, that's my bike. Oh.
Is that it
Yeah, that's the end for this week.
for tonight?
Yeah, for tonight. One of the things that always impresses me is how faithful God is to the Israelites, right? And when he talks about the land that I I promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Like this goes back to that. And that to me is so amazing, like that God has that memory, and that maybe a lot of people that were Hebrew slaves in Egypt didn't have the memory, and Moses had to maybe bring it back up out of them, it's just absolutely amazing. And
the fact that God keeps God's word, so no matter what they do, once God says the land, and even here, like when they're passing through, they're told not to antagonize or, the Edomites or, Asa or any of them. Yeah, because God's saying, don't take a piece of there, because I gave that to,
Right. And that actually made me think this week, like, do the descendants of Esau actually have a book where they talk about their relations with Israel and Jacob,
I don't know.
That's so amazing. That's so funny.
Because I thought Esau is supposed to represent, like, Islam. Like,
partly, right?
Like,
Ishmael definitely, I think, was the father.
That's what I meant.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. Ishmael.
But Esau joined Ishmael. He married some of the descendants, I think, of Ishmael, didn't he?
He married Judith, like, I think, just to make his, to anger his parents.
Right.
They said not to marry, and he did.
Yeah. It's amazing. So I'm sure there's something written down about that, because it's so interesting that God promised all these things to Esau. But I also heard that Esau had something to do with Rome. Like the Romans came from that somehow. I think I heard our buddy Rabbi Alon talking about that. Edom was Rome, or related to Rome or something.
I think I might have heard him mention that in one of the things that we saw way back.
Yeah, I don't recall it. Yeah, it's so like, how do we get all this stuff? It's so amazing. I don't know. But they were pagans, It wasn't.
You there? Mm-hmm. Oh, there you go.
Michael, you froze.
Yeah, he's frozen, eh?
I'm sorry. I froze. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's my internet connection is unstable out here in Alba's garden. The internet is not stable.
My internet's way more stable than I am. Are you kidding? I have a good connection. No, I want to give my computer a can of horror, but I got a great connection. Oh, baby. Yeah. Oh, baby. But yeah, DEVARIM, I like reading this whole thing, because it's also it's first of all, it's like it's a condensed Reader's Digest version of the whole other books. And you get, in addition to that, you have Moses, like, expressing himself, like, in a way that he couldn't before. But now he can, because it's time for him to die and for them to take over. So he can give them his assessment now.
Right.
They'd be more receptive to it now, because he's not going to be there.
That's amazing. Right. Yeah.
Now he could say, you guys have been a bunch of schmendricks. That's how we had to go for 40 years. If it was up to me, we would have, God would have brought us there right away. But because of you guys, had to wait for everybody to die.
Right. But what a great lesson. I feel like my internet goes off when I start talking. But what a great lesson for us all. Like, God gives us something and we say, no, we don't want to do it. We don't want that right now. Or we get afraid. I think that's like the eternal message, is always like, okay, I'm giving you the land right now, go. And no, we can't. We're afraid. We're not going to be able to do anything. And then he says, okay, you're not going to go in. And I do sense that that's very true. And I've seen that in my own life.
And they're afraid to go in, even though God's already guaranteed it to them. God says, no
Right.
fear, but they
Right.
still do. That's the thing. Just like with the 12 spies. Oh yeah, the land is, oh yeah, there's, milk, but the people are like giants, like, and we would, God already told them that you're just going to go in and take it. I promised it to your
Right.
fathers, and
Right.
and they're afraid.
It's incredible. It's
I don't
incredible.
know.
Great message. Great. And then they want to go in, right? You remember it says like they want to go in after he says, and then he's like, no, don't go in. You're going to get slaughtered.
Yep. Yeah, because now you pissed me off, like, so I'm not going to be
Yeah.
there with you.
Yeah, exactly. Time is up. But the funny thing was when you were reading Isaiah, Aki, and you were talking, and it said, I don't want your incense. It may, it's like that was made for you.
Yep.
You hate the incense.
It's like all the sacrifices, and God is saying, you take your sacrifice, you know what you could do with them, because I don't need that, because that's not what, you know what I mean? It's like God is saying, it doesn't mean anything if you're still, Meshuggahs. You could send me all the nice smelling whatever Hazarai that you want, but
Right. And Isaiah is Isaiah is one of the best books to talk about the Messiah, really, to talk about like the coming
That's
age
why
of
Jesus was
Messiah.
into it, right? Jesus
Right. A lot of Christians were, like when Handel's Messiah, that whole musical piece, half of it's taken from the book of Isaiah, which really, it doesn't talk about Jesus specifically, but it talks about the qualities of somebody like that, and it talks about how the pagans, the Gentiles, will see a great light. That's one of the favorite things of Christianity is Gentiles will see a great light, and that's what they hang on to. And,
you are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. The darkest candlestick ain't no good without a wick. You gotta stay bright to be the light of the world. Yeah.
Who is that? Who is that?
That's from Godspell.
Godspell. Oh wow.
Yep.
Wow.
You are the light of the world. It's got a good bass part in it too, as I recall. Seriously, it's got like that boom, 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 that pump handle bass, like,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, it looks light out there, Rocky. It looks dark here. It looks light out there still, where you are.
Oh, it's dark. It's getting very dark. It's getting very dark.
It looks light, but you look light, though. It looks really dark out here, but you look...
I was wondering about your mosquito situation with this moment.
You put this thing upwards, it looks... Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, good night, gentlemen. See you.
Gentlemen? Oh, you must be talking to him.
I'm speaking to both.
Oh, okay.
Bye, Cynthia.
Certainly.
Good night.
Thank you, my dear. All right, Monique.
I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Have a great time, Monique. Oh, that's going to be fun.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a lot of
forward
fun.
to a debriefing when you get back.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Can't
right.
wait.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Have a great time.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.